Racist cop slaps black woman. She destroys his career in 5 minutes. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character. Alicia Monroe stood in the cool evening air outside the precinct, her posture steady beneath the pale glow of a flickering street lamp. She had come here quietly, dressed simply, carrying nothing but a small folder tucked beneath her arm. From a distance, she looked like any other citizen stopping by a police station, but there was something in her stillness that made the space around her feel charged, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Officer Bradley Cole stepped toward her, impatience rising from him like heat from asphalt. His tone carried an edge as sharp as broken glass, dripping with the same dismissive confidence he wore like a second uniform. Passers-by slowed, sensing tension, though no one wanted to become part of it. Alicia didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She simply explained why she was there, each word calm and measured, as though she had rehearsed this moment in her mind long before it arrived. But Bradley wasn't listening. His assumptions spoke louder than her actual sentences, and the more composed she remained, the more he seemed to push back, driven by a certainty that her presence alone was out of place. Imagine standing there, under cold white lights humming above you, knowing every eye around you expects you to shrink. Alicia didn't. Her breath stayed even. Her gaze stayed level. Her hands stayed relaxed at her sides, though her heart beat with a quiet, controlled intensity that only she could hear. Bradley moved closer, trying to crowd her, to force her into the role he had already assigned her in his mind. A couple of officers across the lot glanced over, but didn't intervene. Someone near the entrance pretended to check their phone, pretending they saw nothing. The moment hung in the air, stretched thin by judgment, assumptions, and the weight of a system far older than either of them. Alicia felt the sting of unfairness, but she refused to let it define the scene. Instead, she let the silence work in her favor. She watched Bradley carefully, studying every expression, every reaction, as if she were gathering invisible evidence with each second. She noted the badges around them, the cameras on the building, the witnesses who would later try to recall what they had seen, but couldn't quite forget the way her eyes never shook. Her voice, when she finally spoke again, was soft but carried a quiet authority that pressed into the space between them. Bradley didn't hear the warning inside it. He didn't realize this conversation was no longer one-sided. And he certainly didn't realize that in less than 5 minutes, the balance of power would shift so completely that the ground under his feet would feel different. Alicia simply waited, knowing the night was about to turn. Even with the night growing colder, Alicia Monroe did not move from where she stood. The air around the precinct buzzed with a faint electric hum, the kind that always appears when tension becomes a silent witness. Officer Bradley Cole paced in front of her now, his steps stiff, his breath uneven, his confidence flickering as unpredictably as the street lamp above them. Alicia watched him with the calm of someone who understood patience better than pride. Her stillness unsettled him, though he would never admit it. She noted every detail of the moment, not with fear, but with the quiet awareness of someone trained to read people long before they realized they were being observed. Imagine standing there, the cool concrete under your feet, the soft murmur of passing traffic blending with distant conversations, and knowing that every second is leading toward a truth no one else can see coming. Alicia felt that truth gathering like a shift in the wind. The longer she remained silent, the more Bradley filled the space with assumptions. He questioned her purpose, her presence, even her expression, as if her composure itself was an offense he needed to correct. Yet throughout it all, Alicia offered nothing except a steady gaze. That gaze made Bradley falter for a moment. Only a moment, but she caught it. Across the lot, a younger officer named Daniel Reeves lingered beside a patrol vehicle, pretending to check a clipboard. His Attention kept returning to Alicia, drawn to something in her bearing that did not match the image Bradley kept projecting onto her. Daniel's instincts nudged him gently, telling him there was more happening here than what appeared on the surface. Alicia noticed Daniel noticing her. She filed it away silently, understanding that sometimes justice did not begin with sweeping gestures, but with the smallest shift in awareness. Bradley continued speaking, filling the air with the sound of authority he assumed would hold the moment together. Alicia, meanwhile, felt the seconds stacking themselves neatly, preparing for the inevitable turn. Her patience was not passive. It was purposeful. It was preparation. She reached for the folder under her arm, her movements slow, deliberate, as if she were testing the weight of the night itself. Bradley watched her, misreading the gesture entirely, convinced that whatever she held could not possibly matter. Alicia let him believe that. She had learned long ago that people reveal the most when they're certain they already know everything. The glow of the overhead light softened for a moment, casting her face in a gentle shadow. It made her features look even calmer, almost serene, as though she were listening to something the rest of the world could not hear. And in a way, she was. She was listening to the shift in Bradley's tone, to the way Daniel's unease grew, to the way the night seemed to lean in, waiting. Alicia lifted her eyes again, meeting Bradley's stare with a quiet steadiness that made him fall silent mid-sentence. No raised voice. No dramatic gesture. Just a single, unwavering look that began to unravel the false certainty around him. She held that silence in place, letting it expand until even Bradley felt the weight of it. He stepped back slightly, confused by the change in atmosphere, uncertain why the ground suddenly felt different beneath his feet. Alicia knew exactly why. The moment had arrived, the moment where truth quietly sharpens its edge before revealing itself. And the night was finally ready to turn. Alicia Monroe held her silence as the night shifted around her, carrying with it a subtle tension that only she seemed able to navigate with complete clarity. Officer Bradley Cole stood a few feet away, his confidence now fraying at the edges, as if something unseen had begun pulling at the threads he relied on to hold authority together. The parking lot felt colder, not because of the temperature, but because awareness had started to slip beneath the surface, changing the air in ways Bradley could not name. Alicia sensed it, felt it, understood it. Her patience was not a retreat. It was positioning. Imagine watching someone who believes they are in control without realizing their grip is loosening by the second. Alicia observed the shift carefully. Bradley's posture had stiffened. His voice had lost a fraction of its certainty. Even the cadence of his breathing had changed, no longer steady, betraying a hint of doubt behind his stern expression. Daniel Reeves, still near the patrol vehicle, noticed all of this as well. He tried to pretend he was occupied with the clipboard, but his eyes kept returning to Alicia, drawn to the quiet command in her stance. Something about her made him reconsider everything he had assumed at the start of this encounter. She did not look afraid. She did not look confused. She looked prepared, and that alone placed a weight on the moment that Bradley could not feel but Daniel could. Alicia adjusted her grip on the folder she carried, her fingers brushing across the smooth surface of the cover. Inside were documents that had taken weeks to assemble, each page representing hours of careful investigation. She knew exactly what they meant. She knew exactly what she was about to do. But she also knew timing was everything, and the night needed a few more seconds to settle before she stepped forward. Bradley tried to regain control by filling the air with more questions, more assumptions, more attempts to assert the authority he believed belonged solely to him. Yet the tone of his voice no longer pushed Alicia back. It slid past her, landing without force, like a breeze hitting a stone wall. She watched him, her gaze steady, absorbing the last pieces of evidence she needed to understand his behavior. His words revealed far more than he realized. His reactions revealed even more. The overhead light flickered again, casting a brief glow across Alicia's face. In that brief shimmer, something in her expression shifted, not in anger, not in fear but in resolve. The silence between them deepened, rich with unspoken meaning. Bradley felt the silence differently now. It did not feel like compliance. It felt like expectation, as though Alicia was waiting for something specific to happen, something he could not predict. An unpredictability unsettled him. Daniel finally took a small step forward, no longer able to ignore the sense that something significant was building. He did not speak. He just watched more closely, his instincts urging him to pay attention. Alicia lifted her chin slightly, her voice finally returning in a calm, measured tone that carried more weight than anything spoken so far. It was not the volume of her words, but the confidence behind them that made Bradley pause. The night leaned in once more as Alicia prepared to reveal the truth that had been quietly gathering strength with every passing moment, knowing the next breath would begin to reshape everything around them. Alicia Monroe stood in the center of the parking lot as if the night itself had quietly repositioned every detail around her. The glow from the overhead lamp softened just enough to reveal the steady confidence in her expression, a confidence that Officer Bradley Cole could not decipher no matter how hard he tried. His authority, once loud and unquestioned, now felt thin in the air, like a coat that no longer fit as well as he believed. Alicia sensed the shift in him, not with triumph, but with the calm awareness of someone who had walked through moments like this many times before. Imagine watching certainty fade from a person who was convinced it would never leave. Bradley's shoulders tightened as he waited for Alicia to speak, though he did not know why he was waiting. A silence he once interpreted as submission now felt like evaluation, like she was measuring the evening with a precision that made him uneasy. Daniel Reeves took another step forward from his post near the patrol vehicle, drawn in by the sense that the turning point he had unconsciously anticipated was finally arriving. His instincts urged him to listen, not with suspicion, but with clarity. Alicia shifted her folder slightly, her hand steady, her voice finally emerging with a tone both gentle and unmistakably authoritative. She asked Bradley a question, simple in structure, but heavy in implication. It was the kind of question that makes a person suddenly aware that they have revealed far more than they intended, simply by how they had behaved moments earlier. Bradley struggled to answer, his thoughts scrambling for footing. The night offered him no help. The stillness around them amplified every small hesitation, every misplaced assumption, every certainty he had clung to without ever testing its truth. Alicia studied the confusion flickering across his expression. She did not need him to respond. His silence contained everything she needed. Her gaze then shifted to Daniel, the only person who seemed to sense the deeper meaning behind the unfolding scene. For a brief second, their eyes met, and Daniel recognized something unmistakable in her look. Purpose. Not defiance. Not fear. Purpose. Alicia returned her attention to Bradley, her words flowing with a composure that felt almost impossible given the tension of the moment. She spoke about responsibility, about accountability, about the importance of understanding the weight of authority before using it. She did not raise her voice. She did not accuse him. She simply laid out truths that hovered in the space between them like quiet lights, illuminating everything that had gone wrong in the last few minutes. Bradley shifted uneasily, sensing the momentum slipping further from his hands. The certainty that had carried him into this encounter no longer grounded him. It felt distant now, replaced by an unease he could not rationalize. Alicia stepped slightly closer, not in challenge, but in a gesture that subtly reclaimed the space he had tried to dominate earlier. The gentle sound of her footsteps on the concrete marked the shift more clearly than any spoken declaration could. She lifted her folder, not opening it yet, simply letting it rest in full view. The meaning behind that gesture was not lost on Daniel. He inhaled slowly, understanding at last that whatever was inside that folder was not ordinary paperwork. Bradley, however, failed to grasp the significance. He saw the folder, but did not understand the weight it carried. He did not understand that Alicia had been waiting for the precise moment when silence, truth, and timing aligned. And now, with the night holding its breath once more, that moment had finally arrived. Alicia Monroe held the folder with a steady hand, feeling the weight of every page inside it as the night grew quieter around her. The subtle hum of the street lamp above seemed to fade, as if even the light understood that something important was unfolding beneath its glow. Officer Bradley Cole stood opposite her, his posture caught somewhere between resistance and uncertainty. He did not step back, yet he did not move forward either, as though the ground beneath him had turned unfamiliar. Alicia sensed the shift with the intuition of someone who had spent years studying human behavior. Imagine watching a person realize, slowly and unwillingly, that the narrative they believed they were writing no longer belongs to them. Bradley's confidence had not disappeared. It had simply cracked, and Alicia saw the fracture lines clearly. Daniel Reeves remained near the patrol vehicle, no longer pretending to review paperwork. His attention was fully on Alicia now, drawn into the gravity of the moment with the kind of quiet recognition that often precedes understanding. Alicia lifted the folder slightly, allowing the overhead light to catch its edge. It was not a dramatic gesture, but an intentional one, signaling that the silence between them was nearing its end. Her voice emerged with a calm strength that seemed to settle the air rather than disturb it. She asked Bradley if he understood the responsibility that came with wearing a badge. The question, simple and direct, hung in the air like an echo waiting for acknowledgement. Bradley attempted to respond, but the words stumbled on their way out. His hesitation was unmistakable. Alicia watched him with a measured patience, not to intimidate, but to allow the truth to surface at its own pace. She knew that people often revealed more in their pauses than in their explanations. She then spoke about the importance of integrity, about how authority without accountability becomes a risk not only to the community, but to the very structure it claims to protect. Her tone remained even, her expression calm, but her words carried an unmistakable weight. Daniel's breathing slowed as he listened, the realization growing clearer in his eyes. This was not an ordinary citizen speaking. This was someone who understood the system from the inside, someone who had walked its corridors and witnessed its fractures long before tonight. Bradley, however, remained unaware of the significance behind Alicia's composure. He saw her confidence, but could not interpret it. He sensed her control, but did not understand its origin. Alicia let the silence return for a moment, allowing everything she had said to settle. The night held its breath with her. She finally opened the folder, revealing a neatly organized set of documents. The faint rustle of paper carried through the parking lot, soft but unmistakable. Daniel took another step closer, drawn in by the certainty in her movements. Bradley's eyes narrowed as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Alicia lifted her gaze, meeting his with unwavering clarity. Her expression carried no anger, only purpose. She explained that every detail in the folder pertained to an ongoing evaluation, one that involved understanding patterns of conduct within the precinct. She did not accuse him. She simply presented facts, and the facts, placed gently but firmly into the space between them, began to shift the balance of the night once more. The truth was no longer waiting. It had arrived, quiet and undeniable, in Alicia Monroe's steady hands. Alicia Monroe held the open folder with a quiet steadiness, allowing the pages inside to catch the glow of the overhead lamp as if the night itself was illuminating the truth she had been preparing to reveal. The air around the precinct felt different now, more alert, more aware, as though the stillness had leaned closer to listen. Officer Bradley Cole stared at the documents, though he could not yet understand what he was looking at. His confusion deepened with every second Alicia remained composed. Imagine witnessing someone who believed they controlled the entire moment begin to realize that control was never theirs to hold. Bradley shifted his weight, attempting to regain the authority that had slipped steadily from his grasp, but Alicia's unwavering calm made every attempt feel smaller. She did not need to raise her voice. Her presence alone directed the moment. Daniel Reeves, now only a few steps away, watched with growing clarity. The certainty he had sensed from Alicia earlier was now undeniable. This was not coincidence. This was not a misunderstanding. This was something far more deliberate, far more precise. Alicia turned a page slowly, the soft sound of paper moving through the air, marking the transition into the next phase of truth. She explained, in her measured and thoughtful tone, that the documents outlined patterns of conduct observed within the precinct over several months. Her voice carried no accusation, only facts presented with the kind of careful attention that made it clear she had not arrived at this moment unprepared. Bradley attempted to respond, but Alicia paused him with a calm gesture, not abrupt, not dismissive, simply a signal that she was not finished speaking. Her restraint held more authority than any command. She continued, detailing how the evaluation had been initiated due to concerns raised about procedural inconsistencies and failures to follow departmental standards. She mentioned these things the way a teacher might explain a concept that had been overlooked, offering clarity rather than confrontation. Daniel listened intently, his eyes widening as pieces of information clicked into place. The tone of her language, the specificity of her observations, the structure of the documents, none of it aligned with an ordinary citizen filing a complaint. Alicia then closed the folder gently and looked up with an expression both calm and resolute. She explained that her presence there tonight was not random. She had come to complete an in-person assessment before forwarding the findings to the appropriate division. Her words hung in the air, steady and unshakable. Bradley blinked, finally sensing the magnitude of what she was saying, though he still struggled to accept it. Alicia reached in her coat pocket, her movements deliberate and unhurried. The night seemed to pause with her, every sound softening as if acknowledging the significance of what she was about to reveal. She drew out a slim identification wallet, its edges reflecting the faint amber glow of the street lamp. Daniel inhaled, recognizing what such a gesture meant long before the truth became visible. Alicia held the wallet lightly between her fingers, not opening it yet, simply allowing its presence to shift the air around them. Her voice softened, carrying a quiet weight. She explained that before she revealed her credentials, she wanted to ensure that both officers understood the purpose of evaluations like hers, to protect the integrity of the badge and the trust of the community it served. With those words lingering in the cool night air, Alicia prepared to open the identification wallet, and the balance of the evening tilted unmistakably toward the truth that had been building from the very moment she arrived. Alicia Monroe held the identification wallet between her fingers, the faint reflection of the street lamp catching its surface as if the night itself understood the significance of the moment. The parking lot had grown so quiet that even the distant hum of traffic felt muted, softened by the weight of what was about to be revealed. Officer Bradley Cole stared at the wallet, his confusion deepening with every second of silence, while Daniel Reeves watched with growing realization, sensing that the truth would soon reshape everything that had unfolded tonight. Imagine witnessing the exact instant when a person's assumptions begin to unravel, not through force or confrontation, but through a truth presented with unwavering calm. Alicia opened the wallet slowly, the motion deliberate and purposeful. The small metallic emblem inside caught the light, bright enough to reveal authority, yet understated enough to reflect her restraint. Bradley blinked, his breath catching as his mind struggled to connect the pieces. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes widening with recognition. Alicia's voice, steady and even, carried through the cool night air as she stated her identity. She did not raise her tone, nor did she emphasize her authority with harshness. Instead, she allowed the truth to stand on its own, confident in its weight. She explained that she was with internal affairs at a federal level, assigned to oversee and evaluate precincts with reported concerns regarding conduct, accountability, and community interactions. There was no anger in her words, no accusation, just clarity. Bradley's posture shifted, the last remnants of his earlier certainty dissolving. He took in a slow breath, but the air did not steady him. Alicia could see the questions forming in his mind, the kind that arise when a person begins to understand that every assumption they made was built on a foundation that no longer holds. Daniel watched Alicia carefully, recognizing the level of professionalism and integrity behind each word she spoke. Her presence, her documentation, her tone, all of it fit the pattern of someone who had spent years navigating delicate evaluations with measured precision. Alicia then explained that her observations this evening were not limited to paperwork. They included the way she had been approached, the assumptions made about her without verification, and the manner in which authority had been exercised the moment she stepped into the precinct's parking lot. She spoke about accountability as if it were a guiding principle, not a punishment. Her words were steady, intentional, and rooted in a deep respect for the role law enforcement played when used correctly. Bradley opened his mouth to respond, but nothing cohesive formed. His mind raced, attempting to reconcile the reality in front of him with the certainty he had relied upon earlier. Alicia observed him with the calm insight of someone who understood people far better than they understood themselves. She closed the identification wallet gently and held it at her side, the gesture signaling that the moment of revelation had passed, but the consequences of that revelation were only beginning to take shape. The parking lot felt different now, as though the ground itself had shifted under the weight of truth. Alicia met Bradley's gaze, not with anger, but with a quiet expectation. She had shown him who she was. Now, she waited to see who he would choose to be in the next breath. The parking lot remained wrapped in a charged stillness as Alicia Monroe lowered her identification wallet, its quiet weight settling at her side, like a final piece of truth placed gently onto the table. The glow of the street lamp hovered above her, casting a warm halo that softened the tension while highlighting the calm certainty in her expression. Officer Bradley Cole stood frozen for a moment, his thoughts scrambling to align themselves with a reality he had not anticipated. The authority he believed would shield him no longer felt solid beneath his feet. It felt fragile, thin, as if one more breath from Alicia could cause it to crumble completely. Daniel Reeves watched him closely, sensing the emotional shift before Bradley even understood it himself. Imagine standing in a moment where every assumption you have made is suddenly replaced by the clarity of who stands before you. Alicia took a slow breath, her voice continuing with the same gentle steadiness that had guided every word she had spoken tonight. She explained that her evaluation was part of a broader review aimed at improving the relationship between the precinct and the surrounding community. Her presence, she said, was not to punish, but to ensure that fairness, professionalism, and respect remained at the core of law enforcement interactions. Bradley listened, though his earlier confidence was nowhere to be found. His shoulders dipped slightly, not in defeat, but in an awakening he seemed unprepared for. The truth had reached him, not through confrontation, but through the calm strength of Alicia's honesty. Alicia continued, describing how evaluations considered not only written reports but real-time observations. She spoke of how demeanor, tone, and decision-making all played a role in determining whether an officer upheld the values of the badge. Her words were thoughtful, intentional, and illuminated by the depth of someone who understood both the power and responsibility of authority. The more she spoke, the quieter the night became, as though every small sound around them had softened to make room for a truth. Daniel stepped just a bit closer, compelled by her clarity. He was beginning to understand that what he had witnessed this evening was not simply a misunderstanding. It was a moment designed to reveal character, not only to Alicia, but to the precinct as a whole. Bradley attempted to form a response, but the words faltered. Alicia recognized the struggle in his expression. She did not pressure him. Instead, she allowed the silence to hold him gently, giving him room to step into accountability on his own. Alicia then explained that all findings from tonight would be documented and forwarded to federal oversight, where a formal review process would determine necessary actions. She emphasized that the purpose of oversight was not to dismantle careers, but to strengthen the integrity of the entire system. Her tone was compassionate, but unwavering. The weight of her words settled over Bradley with a clarity he could not ignore. He looked at Alicia not with resistance, but with the beginning of understanding. Alicia held his gaze, offering the quiet expectation that comes from someone who believes change is possible, even in difficult moments. The night lingered in that delicate pause, the air filled with the unspoken truth that justice often begins not with grand declarations, but with the willingness to face what has been revealed. The quiet stillness of the parking lot settled into a deeper calm as Alicia Monroe let her last words drift into the cool night air. The street lamp above her glowed with a soft amber hue, casting smooth shadows along the concrete and outlining the subtle tremble in Officer Bradley Cole's breathing. His earlier certainty had dissolved, leaving behind a man confronted not by force, but by truth. Daniel Reeves remained a few steps away, his gaze steady, his posture more grounded than before. He had witnessed the transformation of the night from a simple misunderstanding into a moment of profound accountability, and his understanding of Alicia's purpose continued to deepen with each passing second. Alicia closed the identification wallet and slipped it gently back into her coat, her movements calm and deliberate. She did not need to say anything more for the truth to echo around them. Yet she chose to speak again, her tone, as soft as ever, shaped by patience rather than judgment. She explained that every evaluation, every report, and every moment observed tonight had been part of a larger effort to restore trust between the community and the officers sworn to protect it. Her intention, she said, was to ensure that the badge remained a symbol of service, not superiority. Bradley listened closely, the shift in his expression revealing something new. Reflection. Imagine watching someone reach the edge of realization, standing in a moment where the choice to grow is entirely theirs. Alicia continued, acknowledging the challenges officers face daily while emphasizing the importance of empathy and understanding in moments of tension. She reminded both officers that authority carries weight, but so does humility. It was not a lecture. It was an offering, a chance for them to choose who they wanted to be moving forward. Bradley swallowed, his voice barely forming. The words caught somewhere between apology and acknowledgement. Alicia did not pressure him to speak. She simply allowed the silence to hold them all, the kind of silence that invites honesty without demanding it. Daniel stepped forward then, not out of obligation, but out of respect. He told Alicia that he understood the importance of what she had shown them tonight. His voice carried sincerity, steady and thoughtful. Alicia gave him a small nod, recognizing the sincerity in his tone. She knew that growth often began with awareness, and Daniel had reached that point fully. Bradley looked between them, the last pieces of denial slipping away as he realized the responsibility he now held, not to justify the past, but to shape the future. Alicia then lifted her folder once more, signaling the conclusion of her evaluation. She explained that the findings would be submitted immediately and that follow-up procedures would begin within the next few days. Her words were clear but gentle, offering a path toward improvement rather than punishment. She stepped back, ready to leave, her presence still radiating the same quiet strength that had carried her through the entire encounter. As she walked toward the edge of the parking lot, the night seemed to follow her movement, the air settling into a calmer rhythm behind her. Daniel watched her go with newfound respect. Bradley watched with understanding he did not expect to gain tonight. And the silence that remained after she departed carried the unmistakable echo of justice. Quiet, steady, undeniable.